Hi everyone, it's Margaret Manning here, and welcome to Mornings with 60 and Me. Today is Wednesday, it's August 31st. It's the last day of August. Hope you're having a great day. I have got my cup of tea this morning. I decided to go with my Taiwanese green tea. This is a really special blend. I bought it at a little shop in Zurich, and it's absolutely beautiful tea. I didn't realize there were so many variations of green tea, but if you've got a favorite, let me know. I'd love to try it. So anyway, welcome here to Mornings with 60 and Me. It is, as I said, August 31st. It is the end of the summer, and I hope you've had a great time. I know that August can be a busy month, sometimes just getting together with friends and family. You know, kids are off school, so you get to see your grandchildren. But it is now almost September. So I wanted to bring you up to speed on some things that are going on in the world and maybe some stories today that you haven't heard about recently. There's just so much going on in this crazy world of ours. And I think, like I've said before, it's important for us to know what's going on and to stay engaged and wherever possible to offer our support and our perspective. We've seen a lot in our lives, and I think it's useful to sometimes keep that lens. But anyway, here we go. I used to live in London, as many of you know, and I lived in Notting Hill. And Notting Hill is in West London. I was born in Hammersmith. But in West London, I lived in Notting Hill, and it's a beautiful part of the city. It's got a lot of interesting markets and a very interesting culture. But every summer they have a big festival called the Notting Hill Festival, and it's really cool. It's Caribbean themed, and people dress up in wild and wonderful costumes. It's kind of carnival, and there's always something though. I mean, everybody who lived in the area used to go away during Notting Hill Carnival. But anyway, this year there were lots of arrests, as often happens. 400 people were arrested on drugs and weapons offences, but they managed to survive another long weekend in the UK. And Notting Hill went off, hopefully without too much difficulty, but there was lots of energy and people just celebrating the end of summer. And I imagine that in your towns and cities this is happening too, so let us know what's going on. Now, in Kashmir, this is a story that I wanted to share with you because I have a passion for India, and I was interested in this story about Kashmir. Now, Kashmir is in the north of India. And it's actually a very interesting location because it's right on the border between Pakistan and India. And for years, there's been a dispute about, who controls that area. Now, in the last 3 weeks, there's been a lot of violence in that area. There was a killing of a man who was very he was loved by the people in Kashmir, but he was actually considered a rebel and a terrorist by the Indian and U.S. governments. So he was killed, and after his death, there were just a lot of riots. And this whole, Kashmir has been this flashpoint because now it's India controlled or India governed, and there's this boundary. They're trying to establish it as an international boundary, but Kashmir on the Pakistan side want it to be, they obviously want more territory, more control. So anyway, but the story is, and the reason I mention it, is that there are just thousands of people who are just cut off from the world right now up there. And there's no humanitarian aid getting in. Internet's been shut off. There's no newspapers. So I just wanted to give our thoughts to the people in the civilians who are in that area in Kashmir, and hope that things get sorted out for them. We've talked about, they always seem to be the victims of these political and geography-based arguments. But anyway, talking about other people suffering from their situations at home, the migrant situation, of course, in Europe continues through the summer months when the weather is a little bit better for sea travel. And this is an amazing story. On Monday, there were 6,500 migrants who were rescued by the Italian Coast Guard in one day. 6,500 in one day. And these were people primarily from the sub-Saharan area, from Eritrea, Nigeria, Mali, and let's see some other places, Ghana. But they were just desperate. And these boats, they showed pictures, were just packed with people. This time there were a lot of women with very young babies, two months old. And they were all rescued by the Italian Coast Guard. And it's just incredible to see these people pouring into Europe through Italy now primarily. And this was just a little bit further south along the Libyan border. But they're rescued, they're now being looked after, and hopefully, again, the situation can get resolved. It's very, very dramatic to see these poor people trying their best to escape what is, a very difficult situation in their homeland. So whatever you feel about it, there we are dealing with these human beings coming into Europe. In China, the G20 summit begins next week. This is a really important summit for the largest and the top 20 countries in the world. This is 19 countries plus the European Union is considered one country. And they get together to talk about primarily the economy, how to extend and grow global economic growth, and also how to stimulate jobs. This is their main concern. It's in Hangzhou, which is the capital city of Zhejiang province in China, and it's in the southeastern coast. And I think there's going to be a lot of interesting side conversations going on as well. I read that President Obama is meeting with President Erdogan. And, this is going to be an interesting conversation with Turkey with all that's gone on in the last couple of weeks. But, it's great that they're getting together. It's great that they're having face-to-face conversations. So that's the G20 summit. I'll report a bit more about that next week, since lots of interesting topics, I'm sure, will come up. So sticking with the subject of business, yesterday Apple got quite a shock. And the European Union made a decision that they actually owed back taxes to Ireland. For the last 20 years, Ireland has been giving the Apple a sort of special tax rate, and it was within the law that they had established at the time. Very, very low tax rate, like 0.005% tax rate. And so Apple ended up not paying much tax the last 20 years in Ireland. Now the European Union is saying that an individual country in Europe cannot do this because it's giving an unfair advantage to them and also to the companies that they extend this offer to. So now they charged Apple with back taxes of up to $13 billion. $1 billion, and that actually with interest could go up to 20 billion. So of course Apple and Ireland are pushing back and appealing. Ireland doesn't actually want this money because they've already they want the jobs and security of Apple in their country. But to give you some perspective though, I know that sounds like a tremendous amount of money, and it is. It's really about the equivalent of a single month of income for Apple. So it's not as though they can't afford it, but it's quite an interesting development for the future of companies in countries in Europe who are lured there by low tax rates. So that's an interesting story, and we'll see how that plays out. Sure, it's going to go on for many, many months, if not years. Just a quick update on Brazil and the Olympics. I know several people have mentioned this in comments, so I just wanted to chat about this. The gentleman called Mr. Hickey, Pat Hickey from Ireland, who was charged at the Olympics with basically running a ticket scam, selling tickets at a higher price than their face value. He was arrested in Rio. He's still there. He was in jail under observation and questioning, and now because of his health, they've actually released him to house arrest. So that's Pat Hickey. All these strange stories coming from the Olympics. I'm sure that will all continue to. But, it always seems to, it doesn't matter how much you try to get through these things without controversy. It seems to always happen. So that's the situation. Finally, I'll give you a quick update on news that I'm sure you're all hearing about around the world, and especially in the United States. In Aleppo, actually in a town near Aleppo, an ISIS leader, a spokesman called Mohammed al-Adnani, was killed yesterday. Now, this is a very big news story because no one, well, the United States hasn't admitted this yet. They did said he had been killed, but they did say they had also been targeting him in Aleppo. So the responsibility is still to be assigned, but it's a very dramatic move. And what was interesting was that ISIS actually immediately, last night in fact, announced this killing and said that he had died. Now this man was technically their spokesman, their communications director. He was their propagandist, but he was also someone who had encouraged violence during the Ramadan period, and also the one that had said, basically go out and do whatever you want in the name of ISIS, and use violence as you see fit. Very provocative character, but he has been killed. Now, I think the day will reveal how ISIS is going to respond to this, and so I just want to let you know that that's happened, and stay tuned to your local stations. The other final story from around the world is that the first private or direct flights that are commercial flights to Cuba are happening today. JetBlue has announced these very low-priced flights directly into Cuba, and the beginning of a whole new chapter for that country. I think there are probably other airlines as well, but this is a significant day. The first flights into a place that's been off limits for Americans, particularly for some years. So Cuba, interviewing some folks this morning, they're thrilled to have the Americans and other people there. It's going to open up many economic doors for them. So that's Cuba. Do you want to go to Cuba? Ever appeal to you? I think I'd like to go one day. I think it would be kind of interesting to see the culture and just have that experience. I love to travel anyway, so I'll go anywhere for on a chance. So. Okay, I've got one story for you here that I wanted to cover, and it's one that we've talked about before in 60andMe. In fact, we've talked about it many times, but I think it's so important now to give you some other perspective on this topic that's backed by science. And by research. And I think that we talk about this concept fairly lightly sometimes, but it really turns out to be more serious than we thought. And that is the topic of loneliness. Now, we've all heard that it's hazardous to our health and it's not a good thing to feel lonely and socially isolated to the point where we feel sick or that we can impact our health. But there's been about 23 studies, and I'll give you the link to this article. It's quite important. It was in Next Avenue, which is a great site, by the way, if you ever are looking for just good topics for older people like us. But anyway, it says that these 23 studies really show how serious loneliness actually is to our health. That there's a 29% higher risk of developing cardiovascular disease and a 32% higher risk of stroke if you are going through loneliness in your life. So this is not something that's just feels bad. It actually helps impacts your body and your overall health as well. Now, it actually apparently exceeds the risk factor for just simple inactivity or obesity. So you're more likely to get sick from being lonely than you are from obesity or inactivity. And this is really, I think, very interesting. Now, of course, there's a difference between being lonely, being socially isolated to the point that you can get sick, and then being alone. And I know a lot of women in our community are probably sitting there thinking, I love being alone. It's fine. I'm healthy. I'm active. I get out. I do stuff. I'm really okay. And then there are women I know that are there watching this and reading this article who are really by themselves and not feeling good about it. That the quality of their interactions with other people, their social engagement is just not good. So these studies that they did tracked about 200,000 people over like 3 to 20 years. So it's not just someone thinking, oh, this is an interesting connection. They've actually shown that if you're feeling really alone to the point of isolation, you try to do something about it in your life. And we've written some articles about getting involved with volunteering, going out and just doing something that gives your life purpose. And, we talk about this kind of casually in some ways, but I want our 60andMe sisters today to just think, is there someone in your life that you think is very lonely? Or are you feeling this yourself? Maybe it's time to reach out and ask for some company, for some help. Join a meetup group. Don't let it get to the point where you're feeling ill, where it's affecting your well-being overall. So, we're a big community. We're here to help each other on this journey. And I would love to think that if we can't give each other real hugs, so let's give ourselves and each other virtual hugs today. And if you're feeling lonely today, just put it in the comment section below, and just let people respond to you, give you some support. Okay, so that's my comment for today. And the other thing I want to close with now is, first of all, a reminder. I have to remind you if you want to get this news first, please, just go up to 60andme.com/mornings and sign up, and you'll get this news every day first. And also, if you know someone that you think could benefit from joining us every morning with our cup of tea and just a chat about the world, tell them about it. Tell them about Mornings with 60 and Me. There's no charge for joining. Just sign up, and you can just be part of this morning gathering. So, I just wanted to close with a quote from one of my favorite people, Nora Ephraim. And she said, in fact, looking back, it seems to me that I was pretty clueless until I was 50 years old. And I love that quote because I actually feel pretty clueless sometimes in my 60s. And I think that we're always learning, growing, and not to be too hard on ourselves if we just don't have it all figured out yet. We've got plenty of time. But, just go ahead and take each day as it comes. Anyway, love, thank you for being here. I really appreciate your support, your time, your effort, your energy, and your love. And let's have a great day together wherever you are in this beautiful world. And my question for today is, do you ever feel lonely? And if you do, what do you do about it? I'd love you to share your comments on this topic. I think it's important. So have a great Wednesday. Do something fun for yourselves. And just drop us a note in the section below on the question, do you ever feel lonely? And if you do, what do you do about it? So take care, everyone. We'll talk to you again tomorrow right here on Mornings with 60 and Me. Bye for now.